If you've ever had a day so spectacularly lousy that even your coffee tasted like disappointment, you'll know the odd magic of tiny, unexpected joys. Why is it that sometimes, right when you're about to wave the white flag and declare yourself emotionally bankrupt, the universe throws you the most trivial little lifeline, a stranger's smile, a perfectly ripe banana, or the sublime satisfaction of finding an old forgotten bill in your jeans pocket? Maybe it's life's way of keeping us on the hook, dangling just enough hope in front of us to keep trudging through. Or maybe, as the scientists and poets both suspect, it's in these minuscule moments that the stubborn, silly resilience of the human spirit quietly flourishes. Let's be honest, modern life has a flair for melodrama. One missed deadline and suddenly you're picturing yourself in a Victorian tragedy, fainting onto the nearest piece of antique furniture. Our expectations have been pumped up by motivational posters and social media success stories to crave big wins, the epic love, the grand job, the viral meme that puts us on the map. But in reality, most days aren't blockbusters. They're more like indie films, a bit messy, low budget, and oddly profound in their smallness. That's why, more than anything, it's the tiny, almost invisible victories that sneak in and save us those fleeting flashes that, for reasons science is still trying to decode, make us want to keep going just a little bit longer. Psychologists have a wonderfully dry term for this phenomenon: microjoys. Not quite the fireworks of a promotion or the serotonin rush of your first kiss, but something quieter, a background melody that tugs you gently back toward optimism. Neurologically speaking, our brains are wired to notice novelty. When something positive and unexpected pops up, even if it's as minor as catching the green light or sipping tea at just the right temperature, our brains reward us with a sprinkle of dopamine. It's nature's way of nudging us toward hope, even if hope comes disguised as an oddly shaped potato chip that looks like Elvis. Of course, these moments don't come with a neon sign announcing their arrival. Most days, you have to be paying attention. The classic examples abound. You're running late, stressed, and ready to declare the world officially hostile, but then someone holds the elevator door with a quick, wordless smile. For a second, the day lightens, and the universe feels a tad less adversarial. Or maybe you finally muster up the courage to water your dying houseplant, only to notice a tiny green sprout. It's not the stuff of legend, but in that instant, your faith in small beginnings is weirdly restored. What makes these microjoys so powerful is their utter unpredictability. You can't schedule them. You can't buy them. Not really. You just have to bumble along, tripping over them like emotional banana peels, each one leaving a little smudge of happiness on your otherwise ordinary day. Science backs this up, by the way. Studies in positive psychology suggest that it's not the massive, life-altering events that most shape our happiness. It's the frequency and texture of tiny positive surprises woven into our everyday routines. Think about the last time you had one of those soul-crushing, existential questioning afternoons. Maybe your work felt pointless, your socks didn't match, and your inbox looked like a digital landfill. Then bam, your favorite song starts playing, seemingly out of nowhere, and for 3 sweet minutes, the universe feels almost coordinated in your favor. Or perhaps a random text from an old friend lands in your notifications just to say hi, and you find yourself grinning like someone who's just discovered Wi-Fi in the wilderness. These moments may be microscopic in the grand scheme of things, but in the tight, foggy corridors of a rough day, they're blazing little rescue flares. Society, on the other hand, loves to celebrate the big milestones. We toast to promotions, anniversaries, graduations, and spectacular achievements. But ask anyone to list their favorite memories, and odds are, they'll start talking about late-night conversations, a sudden burst of laughter, or the unexpected comfort of soup on a rainy day. Even ancient philosophers couldn't help but wax poetic about life's tiny pleasures. Epicurus, for example, believed that happiness was more about simple satisfactions like good bread and honest friends than any grandiose conquest. He probably would have loved the first sip of a cold soda after mowing the lawn. And let's not forget the chain reaction effect. One small, uplifting moment doesn't just patch up your mood, it can trigger a whole domino run of good feelings. If you're smiling because you found a lucky penny, you might be a bit kinder to the next person you meet. Maybe you hold the door for someone else, who then remembers to call their mom, who then, well, you get the idea. These tiny joys aren't just band-aids, they're little sparks that quietly set off bigger, brighter changes both inside us and all around. It's almost comical how some of these joy-inducing moments are things you'd never write home about. There's a bizarre sense of victory in tossing a crumpled receipt and landing it straight into the trash from across the room, as if you've just won Olympic gold in freestyle littering. Or maybe it's the oddly therapeutic feeling of popping bubble wrap, pointless, repetitive, and weirdly satisfying. These small, seemingly insignificant pleasures become, for a fleeting moment, the main event of your day. If anyone ever filmed the highlight reel of real life, you'd see more spontaneous air punches over parallel parking on the first try than over any so-called major life achievement. On tough days, it's these little flashes that keep us afloat. The world can be loud, stressful, and, at times, ridiculously complicated. But somehow, the smallest things, like a compliment from a stranger, the smell of fresh bread, or catching your bus at the last possible second, manage to break through the mental static. They remind us that life isn't always about climbing mountains. Sometimes, it's about tripping over a perfectly smooth pebble and laughing at yourself. What's more, these moments tend to have a contagious quality. Your good mood, sparked by something as minor as finding your keys right where you left them, for once, can ripple outward, brightening someone else's day in turn. It's as if happiness, in its purest form, is most generous when shared in tiny, unexpected doses. So, maybe the secret to resilience isn't about constant grit or relentless positivity, but about keeping your senses tuned to the little victories. Maybe it's about allowing yourself to feel delight, even if the reason sounds silly when you try to explain it. Because in a world that loves to measure everything in milestones, the things that really keep us going are often the ones you can't put on a resume or even in a decent Instagram caption. As we wind our way through life's mazes, it's tempting to believe that fulfillment must always be earned with monumental effort or found in extraordinary places. But history, psychology, and 1,000 half-forgotten afternoons argue otherwise. It's the soft, subtle hum of the ordinary that keeps us stitched together. The simple joy of the sun slipping through the curtains after a sleepless night, or the first cool breeze after weeks of suffocating heat. These are the threads that quietly reinforce our will to keep moving forward. The thing is, you don't have to be a philosopher, poet, or motivational guru to recognize these moments. Anyone who's ever experienced the unexpected delight of biting into a perfectly ripe piece of fruit, or the amusement of a toddler's contagious giggle, knows exactly what it means to be rescued by the everyday. Even your pet seems to know. Watch how a cat will purr in a slant of sunlight, entirely content, needing nothing but that small warmth to remind itself that life is good. Sometimes, the moment that saves your day is as humble as a well-timed joke, a hot shower after a long walk in the rain, or finally scratching that one itch you couldn't quite reach. The details are different for everyone, but the effect is almost universal. Suddenly, the insurmountable feels a bit more manageable. You remember for a heartbeat that you're not alone in the struggle. Everyone, everywhere is collecting these pocket-sized lifelines, tucking them away for rainy days or restless nights. And so the next time you're weighed down by the seriousness of it all, try keeping a lookout for those tiny, unheralded victories. Let yourself laugh at the absurdity of finding joy in the smallest successes. The world might never notice your perfectly buttered toast or the random text that arrived just in time, but you will. And sometimes, that's all it takes to keep going.